let me ask you this question. You have a beard, I have a beard. Let's say we go to a web shop for, I don't know, for men. These are two questions you need to answer first. Like, hey, is someone shopping for himself or is he shopping for someone else? And then to what segments or what are the core segments that I'm having here? So if you were that owner, what would you do?
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of our podcast. And this time I have with me as a guest Nihad Memic, who is managing partner for Woolman Benelux. Woolman being the biggest Shopify agency in Europe and in the top 4 of Shopify agencies worldwide. Welcome, Nihad.
Thank you, Koen. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure for me to talk about a subject that I love, which is personalization within the e-commerce system. So I'm looking forward to the tough questions that you are going to ask me. I've seen your previous shows, so the pressure is high. Let's do it.
Don't worry. So I'm all about AI-based personalization. You are all about Shopify. So my proposal is we have this talk on AI for Shopify. So before diving into the personalization part, maybe let's take one step back. And I want to ask you, when I say AI for Shopify, what are things that come to mind?
A great question. It always, well, one of the first things when you talk about AI, it comes down to personalization, right? Artificial intelligence comes down, at the end of the day, it comes down to a machine learning system that is helping you to provide a better customer experience. AI for Shopify, yeah, I think we should look at it from a broader perspective. The days before we had Shopify and the days before we had all these amazing tools where you had brands just custom coding these web shops and starting off and at the end of the day they figured, hey, my conversion rate is not going up, it's going flat rate, so I need to do something. My first encounters with AI in general for e-commerce were like 10 years ago, and this was more or less a rule-based or manual type of work, and I'm glad to see that how the ecosystem and the market is evolving, and where you basically with Shopify as the culture, Shopify's culture is like, hey, we want to break down all the technical barriers that merchants and brands have so that they can focus on growing their revenue and growing their brands. And AI tooling and everything that comes with it is a bit under the same umbrella with the same culture. So I'm very keen to see what's going on in the ecosystem. And when I learned about your organization, your company, was like, okay, I need to figure this out because this is a new step forward for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I think the tooling mindset or the ease of use mindset of Shopify, I think it's great because and what they provide there with their app store for third parties to enhance their solution. For a company like Froomle, it's a blessing because they really, let's say, invite companies like us to enhance their experience and do it in such a way that the onboarding and the usage is minimal effort for actually the business owner exploiting the web shop. Okay, I mean, it's pretty obvious. We didn't expect otherwise when we say AI and e-commerce and Shopify in specific. We quickly get down to personalization, which is not a surprise, of course. But then personalization, it's, again, not an easy word because a lot of people understand quite different things when you talk about personalization. So tell me, what does personalization in an e-commerce context mean to you?
For me, it's all about user experience. That's basically what e-commerce is about. And everything that you do online is about user experience. So having and getting and providing the best user experience as possible, that's for me personalization. But when you talk about personalization from a brand perspective or a merchant perspective, if you will, it's more or less, unfortunately, still seen as a part of conversion rate optimization.
Mhm.
Yeah. So personalization comes, it's maybe the fourth or the fifth thing that merchants start think about when they have figured out, hey, I need to do something with conversion rate optimization. And I believe it's our obligation as providers from these ecosystems or suppliers to educate as much as possible.
Very
Um,
interesting. Can I quickly ask a follow-up question on that? So I want to get back to user experience versus conversion, because I think that's a very interesting topic. But before we continue on that, you mentioned personalization is typically like the fourth or fifth thing that comes up when a merchant starts to think about conversion and how to optimize it. What are some of the other things that typically are tackled?
well, the first thing, and when we talk, and this is when we talk about the SMBs or the smaller brands or retailers, the ones that are starting off, they typically start with choosing the platform, which is Shopify in this case, and then they invest a lot of revenue or money or in getting the project live. What you will see is that sometimes they forget to have budget for customer acquisition or budget for after the launch. So they launch the project, they start the web shop, and then in a month or two or within a week, barely nothing happens on the website. And then they come to us and they're like, well, we have done an amazing project, but I have no revenue. I need to work on my conversion rate, because this is something they have learned or heard, or another CEO or whatever I mentioned this word, and that's when they start talking about conversion rate optimization. Typically, what I say is, okay, let's first go back and start to get revenue on the website without, or traffic. Sorry, let's get traffic on the website. Without traffic, there's nothing to optimize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when the discussion started about conversion rate, typically you will hear, yeah, I need to do something with the CTA button or the color or the fonts, or yeah, typically it's in that area, or a missing feature, and less about optimizing for the visitor. It's more of these generic topics that they read somewhere, basically. That's what I mean. It's our obligation also to educate merchants and the ones that are joining the ecosystem.
Okay. All right. So user experience versus conversion. You said you feel personalization is really about user experience, but a lot of merchants look at it from a rather single-minded perspective of conversion. Where do you see, or what's the difference between both, or is there a difference?
Well, these are metrics. I believe there are two most important metrics for any brand or merchant, which is the customer, or the cost of customer acquisition, and the customer lifetime value. Okay. And conversion rate, or average order value, or time on the website, or whatever, these are sub-metrics. And personalization is a sub-metric of the customer lifetime value. That's how I perceive it.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting view, because I understand that a lot of merchants are very focused on conversion and AOV for good reasons. I think they're like short-term metrics. You can quickly see stuff there. And of course, they use it as a proxy for lifetime value, I guess. But there you see a very big difference between, let's say, the bunch of the pack and the ones that are ahead. Some time ago, I had a podcast with Zeno Gantner from Zalando. And what was so striking is the difference, is like the similarity in view he had with you. So he said, we don't focus so much on conversion right now. What matters to us is how many times or with which frequency people come back, and not just coming back, of course, also having repeat purchases. We're not focusing so much on, did you now buy an expensive code or a cheap one?
Yeah.
But did you buy something? And are you coming back to buy another thing and another thing? Also to install habits with their customers, because humans were habit animals. And creating that habit, I think that drastically increases lifetime value.
Well, that's I believe precisely what I mean. It's about a customer lifetime value, and these are all sub metrics that will contribute. But what is more stunning, if you ask a merchant who is, let's say, doing less than 5 million in gross revenue, cost of acquisition, they have no clue. If you ask them like, okay, how much are you paying for a single new customer? The typical answer would be, we have some ads somewhere going on and that's about it. But okay, but do you know if this is a client who is coming back for the first time, second time, or is this a totally new one? Sometimes they would guess, but if you ask about the customer lifetime value, clueless. And that's really stunning. And that's what I mean. We have an obligation to educate these, because if you only focus on this one single metric, conversion rate, and you are starting off with personalization, then you will not give it an honest try.
Yes.
And this is with everything. If you just focus on this one single metric, conversion rate, you're not giving it an honest try. And then you can also debate about what is then a conversion. Is a conversion just clicking to the next page, or is a conversion the purchase of an item?
I think it's very interesting. I think also looking at customer lifetime value solves a apparent paradox, not a real one, where people, let's say, are torn between, on the one hand, we need to be data driven, and that with that they typically mean we need to look at conversion. On the other hand, they do feel that that does not make them make the right decisions all the time. So they say, my gut feeling is telling me we should care about the customer, but then on the other hand, if we look at the data, the conversion rate, this is what we need to do. But that's not a real paradox, because conversion rate, that's not the ultimate data point. It's only one data point. The ultimate one is customer lifetime value, of course. And then when you put that forward, I think the paradox disappears, and customer experience very well gets aligned with the data talking about your revenue.
Exactly.
So to close this off, one case for you, and then at the end there's going to be a decision to make, and I think I can guess what the decision you will make, but it's a little game. So I am visiting a web shop, let's say your web shop. I'm on the product page of a very nice coat, costs a lot of money, and I'm going to buy it. Cool. It's good enough. It's good enough. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to click the button, but then I see similar items. So like in a recommender system, it's an AI, and it shows me a better coat. Really, it's like, whoa, this is cool. There's this other coat. I like it even more. It is cheaper. So I'm going to that page and I buy the cheaper code. On top of that, I don't know that, but you know, that other code that I'm actually buying now, it's giving you less margin. So actually, on the short term, you're fucked because your recommender system just created you less money in the short run. However, I'm super happy. I mean, this was a great experience for me. I didn't just find a code that was good enough. I really found a better one, and I'm so happy. So the question now is, what situation do you prefer? The one where I buy the cheaper code with less margin, or the one where I didn't see that because it wasn't recommended to me, and I just went for the original product?
I always prefer the situation where you would feel like, hey, they really helped me out. I like this brand, I like this organization, and either I'm going to come back or I'm going to recommend. The other day I read an amazing article from a brand, and I don't know what it was, but it was about also about a coat and someone with a motor jacket, and it scratched or something, and the guy went to a local store in a total different country, to a local store, and was like, well, my jacket is broke, and can you fix it, or do I need to buy a new one? And this amazing service they had. So they fixed the coat for the guy without any costs, and they were like, well, we want you, and the motto was, we want you to buy less. So this is why we are doing it for free. They could have sold a new one, but they fixed the old one, free of cost, and the guy was sold. He was telling about a story on LinkedIn and had, like, I don't know, 20,000 likes or something, and was sold for the rest of life. So it's really about helping the client, helping the customer, providing the right service. And in this story, or in this example, it's also about what do you do after the purchase.
Yes.
It's not about only what happens on the web shop, but also what happens after the purchase. So
it's actually investing in the customer lifetime value. You're investing a little bit of money right now to get a lot more back over the long run. Like the story you told, well, they invest fixing the jacket, they invest not selling a new one, but they get so much more back. If only the advertising value from that. That's the same thing as in my story. It's like, yeah, you sell the cheaper one with less margin, but that's an investment in the lifetime value of that customer. Yeah, that's a.
And this is something that I have to say not a lot of brands dare to do. There are a lot of focus on the short terms. There is a lot of focus on the short term. This is always this ludicrous discounts you will see on Black Fridays or Cyber Mondays. That's typically focusing on the short term, right? No clue about where these guys are coming from, how to. If you are giving away 70% discounts, okay, cool. If that's the client who is coming back for the 5th, 6th, or the 20th time, you would do that. But if it's someone who is coming for the first time and only for that specific product, and you're giving away 70% and you will never see him back, well, okay, and then you need to figure out or rethink your reasoning, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that strategy only works when your core proposition is big discounts, and of course that's where people are coming to you. But if that's not really how you make the difference, or can make the difference because maybe you don't have the size, yeah, then it's very tricky to step into that game, because you're competing also against other people who can give way better discounts than you. So probably need to find the niche or the thing that you're best in, which is probably not discounts if you're not Amazon or something like that. All right, cool. We talked a lot about personalization actually without talking about what it looks like. Yeah? So we said, yeah, personalization can be for conversion. It's also improving user experience. But maybe as a consumer, what does a personalized website look like, or where do you see, or maybe you don't see it, but how does it show that a website is personalized?
Well, you have 2 ways. Is personalized content. So let's say text written or something. Typically, you will see them in emails. You saw them in emails, or you are seeing this for, I don't know, 8 years now. The hi Koen, thank you for your purchase. And hi Koen, it's winter again, and I believe you need this amazing coat because just like last year's you went to Switzerland and forgot your coat or whatever. Then you have the step personalized content, which was on the website. Somehow the content will be dynamically written or shown to you. This is something you can also recognize. Then you have the other thing is personalized merchandise, which is product recommendation, and the example you gave with that code, that's personalized merchandise. And this is something as a visitor you don't recognize, you don't see it, but there is obviously an engine who is doing this and on the spot doing all this calculation and the algorithms working and presenting these products for you.
Yeah, I think the first example, which is about just using, let's say, the first name of the person, of course, it's a no-brainer. Like, why not do it? But that's, of course, it's pretty simple, right? You know their name, just talk to them like that. Of course, it might have been in the past a challenge of doing that at scale, but these days I think the tools there are a lot of tools to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I think for me, the goal of personalization needs to be to give somebody the feeling that this is really a shop for me. This is my shop. This is where I get my stuff. Everything they, let's say, put on their shelves, it's almost all of it. It's exactly what I want to buy. But of course, you do it such that you don't have one shelf and then show that to everybody, so that only the people who correspond to your taste, they keep coming, and all the rest, they go somewhere else. You just made sure that you show a different shop to everybody, so that everybody keeps coming to you. It's also related to, before the digital age, and sometimes even still today, you go to your local shop for clothes. It's a boutique typically. It's a small one.
Yeah.
You come in there, and then the owner tells you, "Hey, hello, first name, Nihad. Of course I know what you buy. You come here already for 10 years. I have here 3 things for you that you will really like, because I know what you bought the 10 previous years." And then she takes you there, and then she shows like a jacket and a trouser and a shirt. You're like, yeah, that's really what I need. Well, that's real customer experience, right? And that's exactly what personalization doing. And in this case, I think it would match completely with what you call merchandise personalization. So knowing what this kind of person likes from their past behavior, both what they purchased and what they looked at, and then saying, based on what I know from you, you know what, today I have this in my catalog, that could be very interesting to you. And in essence, that's what makes the difference.
And nowadays, or there are 2 streams in tooling. You have this this engine, the AI tool, who is doing these type of tools, and on the other hand, you have these more or less manual tools, or tools that you can more manipulate or influence yourself. And typically they work with pop-ups. They ask a question to get some kind of idea, and then you will go into this stream, or typically that's then a flow they have created. But still, this is either a marketing person or a e-commerce manager or whoever on the webshop end is creating this in his own mind and thinking, hey, these are logical questions to ask, and they are creating these flows. That's really amazing. But what is even more amazing, if you compare it with the machine learning tools, they can create 100,000 flows, and no single human being can create. Well, if you can create more than 10, it's already amazing. But all these components and behaviors that human beings are showing, well, we cannot simply create those flows ourselves. So we need the help of these machines to do that for us.
Yeah, I totally agree, and of course, it's no surprise that that at Froomle we work on such machines to do that instead of humans. Also because, I mean, first of all, I think it's about efficiency. So not spending or wasting time on that when a machine can do it actually a lot of the time much better. So having better results. Also, let's say, get out of the thinking patterns humans have in their mind and that they're stuck in. It's just how we are. However, that being said, it is true that a lot of people probably tend to go, at least on their first try, to the more manual solution. I think because it provides them with more control.
Again, that's the education part. So typically, when this topic of conversion rate optimization is being started on the merchants end or brands, you really need to have some buy-in with all the stakeholders from the internal organization. There is no single person that will say in a marketing team, oh, okay, let's tomorrow start with personalization, and then they will start. That's not how it goes. So first you need to create the buy-in. Then there is a process of educating yourself, going out there, figuring out what's out there in the market, what type of toolings there are, and it's also a bit the unknown. So it's a human behavior to have more control, right? So I don't blame anyone choosing for the more manual type of work, but it's just human behavior. So yes, they start with these manuals, and then after a few iterations, either they learn, like, hey, this is either amazing or it's not doing what I expected to do, and then they have educated themselves, seen more. Maybe your team has prospected them and called them and shown your solution, and that's how it typically goes. So it's not a process of deciding today we are going to do personalization and tomorrow they will have the best fit.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I agree with that, and I want to add one more idea and get your feedback on that. So I think it's about, if you have a solution, of course you need to trust it. That speaks for itself, and an easy way to trust a solution if you can exert a lot of control over it. So that's why the manual one initially is just easier to go with. Of course. So then the question becomes, if you have a more automatic, a real AI-based solution, how do you create trust in the AI? And of course, you can let the AI run for a long time and create money and do A/B tests, and that's definitely a tool in the toolbox to create that trust. Only, well, the time and the effort, or what you need to create that trust, is some initial trust that you want to put it live, that you want to put it in front of customers, of course. So I think there's a gap there to bridge. You have to really jump over something to do that. And I would say a good way to increase the trust is to, well, to show people you can even not be running the AI. You can collect the data, and then the AI could say, without being in production already, it could say, look, yesterday you had some customers, here's one, and he didn't buy anything. But you know what? I know that this person recently has purchased these products. Yesterday he or she watched these products. You know what? If I would have been in production, if you would have used me, I would have recommended them this product, and you can see as well as I can that
that would be amazing.
Sorry?
That would be amazing if this is possible with any or with all the tools that are out there. Typically, the toolings are giving you like a trial of 7 or 14 days or 30 days to prove themselves. That's something else than what you are proposing. If this will, your proposal will obviously open more doors, I believe. It's there is also no work behind it, because it's just giving you access as a supplier to the store, and on merchant sides there is no work. There is no agency or whatever, or someone who needs to do the work. If you decide to go full and trial with 7, 14 or 30 days, then there's always resources issues or budget or something, and then typically they already start with a 400, 500, 600 euros, and that's already for somewhere it's like, oh, okay, that's already quite an investment. But if you would have it in like you propose, that will open obviously more doors and more hearts to the idea of giving away the control. But again,
I have to push that idea forward.
I'm sorry?
Then I have to put some pressure on that idea, because it's we're going to try to make it happen pretty quickly. So
well, and then you have to have the data in place that also makes sense. I have seen tools with a decent base who don't have any baseline. So they are just saying, okay, we are performing or we are contributing X percentage to your revenue, but there is no group that is not being shown their presentation. So there is no, if you call it A/B testing, there is no the A or the zero line. There is no control group.
So according to you, what would be a good baseline? Is it just, let's say, providing the option? So because you install the tool, it like fills a position on the website. Of course, then the tool needs to be capable of showing the real stuff, and also, let's say, a control version. The control version, would that just be random products, or would you give the opportunity to the merchant to handpick some products? What would be a good benchmark there?
Let me ask you this question. You have a beard, I have a beard. Let's say we go to a web shop for, I don't know, for men. How would this merchant know that the visitor, who is either a male or a female, the male can buy for himself, female and maybe a present? That's like already one question. And then is he shopping to cut his beard or shave, or is he going for the Gillette or whatever? So these are two questions you need to answer first. Like, hey, is someone shopping for himself, or is he shopping for someone else? And then to what segments, or what are the core segments that I'm having here? So if you were that owner, what would you do?
Well, I would install the Froomle software, and the interesting part is, but I can give some insight in how typically AI would solve this problem. So first of all, the AI doesn't discriminate. So the AI is probably never going to make the explicit reasoning, is this for the person or for somebody else? Why? Because, but the AI will see, what can also happen is that definitely if the shop has a larger catalog, that you have multiple tastes or multiple contexts. You can buy something for your personal life, you can buy something for your business life, you can buy something for your wife. So those are three, let's say, parts of your shopping behavior. And what you buy for your personal life and for your wife might in some cases even be closer together than what you buy for your personal life and your business life. So I don't think it's so important whether it's for you or somebody else. I do think it's important to understand that people are not one block of behavior. They are a collection of different behaviors. That's one thing. So it's important when an AI uses data that it is not always needing to use all the data at the same time. It needs to understand what part of the data is relevant right now. That's number one. Of course, to understand what part of the data is relevant right now, two things need to happen. If you just arrive on the website, you didn't do anything yet, the best thing the AI can do is to show, let's say, something from all the behaviors. And then when you do your first click, that's when the AI can, let's say, increase its confidence that you are, let's say, going for one of the different behaviors that you have shown. Of course, if you show behavior A 90% of the time, it makes sense for the AI not to show 50-50 products of behavior A and B, but rather 90-10, 90% of behavior A, 10% of behavior B, something like that. And then, of course, as you start surfing and you click certain products and you don't click other products, that's, of course, when the AI needs to increase its confidence that you're going for one behavior and therefore reducing, not annihilating, but at least reducing the amount of products that correspond to behavior B. Never annihilating, because, I mean, it's always statistics, right? You can be pretty sure that you're like shopping for yourself, but who knows, during the session you might change your mind or want to add something for your wife or for your business. Is that an answer to your question?
It's a quite interesting answer, I have to say, especially because if you it makes sense. Huh? I have to say I did not proceed like that because I'm looking from the customer lifetime value. And you need to have the data, and the data will help you. So the sooner you know, hey, this is someone who is interesting for me to invest in, because these visitors are coming from a certain channel. So this is typically how it works. Like if you see, hey, I'm investing in some channel ads or whatever, and the clients that are coming from these channels are interesting for me for the customer lifetime value. So that's one metric you need, or at least that's what I'm looking at. Like, hey, is this one interesting for me or not? And then if it's interesting enough, I'm going to double down on that channel because, hey, this one is working for me. So yeah, from that point of view, I would argue that it's not important if it's for himself or for someone else, because you want to have the relationship as soon as possible with the end consumer.
Yes. By the way, talking about channels, where you're coming from, like the acquisition channel, can also be a very important piece of information that can inform the personalization. Of course, if you're a first-time visitor and we know you come from Instagram instead of through Google, it makes the AI will choose, if it gets that information, which it should, it will typically show a different merchandising than when you come from Google, and it will base that by just analyzing the data it gets when people come from one or the other channel. Even better, if you work with influencer marketing, when you can even take into account the influencer that has sent the traffic to your website, and that's typically a very good source for feeding the personalization engine, because influencers are very dominant when it comes to certain tastes and styles. So two different influencers will typically bring kind of different traffic, which needs different products, and therefore is a very good piece of information for personalizing the website.
Yeah, and this is exactly the point why I am more in favor of the machine learning systems, because one influencer is not the other. So upfront, if you would say, okay, we are going to do this manually, then you would say, okay, this influencer and his target group is such and such. So you are creating all these ideas, and then the next time you maybe think, well, it's the same type of influencer, let's reuse it. Could be the case that you are going off there and have totally different numbers.
Yeah, it's also the let's say the volume. I mean, you can't keep up with having all these different things and figuring out what to show with which influencer. By the way, you might not even know. I mean, it's you can guess a lot, but the good thing with the AI is just try stuff and then see what works best, and then doubles down on that. And it's that's the beauty. That's the beauty of machines.
And there is there is also a difference between what people say that they will do and what they actually are going to do.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I have a very nice story about that from Netflix. So Netflix is very much known for their personalization engine. They're one of the top players in the world when it comes to personalization. And they, at some point, they had a system for people to rate movies. And I think they still have it. But they personalized based on the rating. So you told Netflix, oh, this is a great movie. This movie sucks. And they're like, okay, now we know what you like, and now we can figure out what else we need to recommend to you. They stopped that because they figured out that they don't need to use the information about what you say you like. They just need to use information about what you actually watch.
Exactly.
Because what was happening is people were getting like 5 stars to all the Oscar-winning art movies, and then the blockbusters, they gave them like 2 or 3 stars. But then, what did they actually watch? Yeah, it's the 2 and 3 star movie.
Yeah.
They just want to do a no-brainer TV night. So yeah, I mean that's a very striking story about the difference between what people tell and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Nihad, I would say let's close it off here.
Already?
Yeah, already. We're
God.
close to an hour already. So if we want to continue this, we'll have to do a follow-up conversation, which would be a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, well, let's do that, because we have Froomle, I think just launched this month on Shopify, and let's see in a few months from now how that will go, and iterate and see and hear about your experience.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Let's do that. Let's see also then what next steps are. Super. Thanks a lot for having you. Thanks a lot for being with me. It was very nice. I really loved the conversation. I think other people will also find it very interesting.
Great. Thank you very much, Koen. Thank you for having me, and see you next time in the new year, I believe, right?
Yes, we're the end of 2021, so next
times
will be 2022 for sure. For all our viewers and listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we have more podcasts coming up with Nihad, but also with other people. If you're interested to watch or listen to our previous one with Pinterest, Wayfair, Zalando, etc., visit our channel or our website, and you can just look or listen to them over there. Thanks a lot. See you later.